right.
Rami, we need it.
Yeah.
All right. Good evening.
Hi.
Professionally, you ready? All right, that means the cameras now are all working in sync somehow. Or you're all Zen Buddhists and that was the sound of one hand clapping. All right, that means the cameras now are all working in sync somehow. Or you're all Zen Buddhists and that was the sound of one hand clapping. We need another one. You need another one? You didn't want to keep that one? Keep on. I'm like so inept I can't even clap. I'm going to prepare for this one.
Special.
Are you ready? You ready for this? I'm ready now.
You really are.
Yeah.
Give it to it.
How's that?
Actually, we only see it this way.
Relax.
Really?
Still, yeah. Perfect.
All right, that was the hardest thing in the movie. I have a couple of logistic things to go through, and then I'm going to introduce Joanne from Scarrett Bennett, and then we're going to go right into Andrew. But there are a couple of logistical things. First, men's room and ladies' room off to the side there. If it's too crowded, there are trees all over campus. Let's see what else. I brought a whole bunch of things to announce. So at the, I'm just so pleased. One thing I did forget to say. We are obviously filming this. If you don't want to, if you're in witness protection, that's the section back there. You know not to. I didn't mean you. Behind you.
We know about you.
Yeah, so if you're in witness protection and you don't want anyone to know, sit over there and we won't film that part. But again, thank you so much for coming.
Great pleasure.
And this is a single clap for the camera, but then I invite you all to clap and welcome our guest, Andrew Harvey. Are you ready?
Before I invite you to a journey into the revolutionary return of the sacred feminine, that is the core mystery of our time and the glorious hope of our very endangered world, I want to invite you to come into your heart and to bow your heads to your heart. And by that gesture, I invite you to surrender your reason, your agendas, your ego, every concept you have ever had of the Mother or of God, to that intelligence, that supreme and sublime intelligence that lives at the core of the heart center, that center that is a little to the right of the chest, that center that when it is open will reveal to you the Mother in and as everything. Every being, every stone, every fern, every dolphin, every whale, every supernova, everything. Because everything is created out of her light. And she lives in and as everything. This revelation is the key to birthing the divine in the human and to birthing the new human being that she is birthing at this moment in and through the greatest evolutionary crisis of our entire history. So please bow your heads to your heart and arrive in your devoted mind, in your open heart, and in your body, in the depths of your body. And try, as you do this, to arrive gently and simply in her unified force field. That force field that unifies in her and through her grace your whole mind, your whole heart, your whole body, your whole soul, and reveals them as secretly and eternally one. Ramakrishna called this unified field being in love's body. And the secret of arriving in this unified field is in opening the heart in devotion, reverence, and adoration of the Queen of the universe, the Queen of creation, the Divine Mother that births everything and lives in and as everything. I'm going to begin by a sacred practice, because I cannot and I do not want to speak of the Divine Mother before adoring her and praying to her. I love all the different manifestations of the Mother, all of the goddesses, all of the dakinis, all of the different amazing constructions of her that have been forged out of the human soul's encounter with her. I love the mother of the Kagaba tribe. I love the mother of the African shamanic tradition. I love Kali. I love Durga. I love Lakshmi. I love the way she's celebrated in Buddhism as the Prajna Paramita, the mother of the Buddhas, the great emptiness that gives birth to enlightened intelligence. All of these different visions of her are profoundly holy and profoundly initiatory. But I love her most as Mary. I love her most as the embodied Divine Mother in the great Christ unfolding. And the reason why I love her most as Mary is because in Mary she became human. And in Mary's holy and beautiful and passionate and strong and majestic and tender and grand humanity, and in the glorious unfolding of Mary's life, we see, if we dare to look, the full unfolding of the divine motherhood of God in a human being. And also because at this moment of extreme danger, the face that she has chosen to turn towards humanity in apparition after apparition, message after message, is the face of that woman who at 12 years old said yes to the intolerable and glorious responsibility of birthing into the world the new Christ consciousness. I love her as Mary because in the worst and most painful time of my life, when I had to leave my guru because she told me that I could not be me, but had to be a heterosexual and get rid of the person that I loved the most. It was in Mary, to whom I turned, that I met the real, transcendent and embodied Mother. And before we do the Hail Mary together, I want to share with you the moment when I met the force and majesty and tenderness and protection of Mary as Mother and the Mother as Mary in a way that forever changed my relationship with the Mother, and in a way that made me understand far beyond thought and far beyond emotion in the cells of my body the core truth that I want to convey to you tonight, which is that in the middle of this crisis in which we are in which everything is at stake and everything is possible, the Mother is with us, ready to grace us her amazing beauty and truth and power in the most naked and intimate way. And so however we tremble and however afraid we get, those of us who know this know forever and ever, without a shadow of a doubt, that she is with us at every moment to help, to ennoble, to inspire, to guide, to instruct, and to give us the courage to go forward and with her and for her birth a new world. What happened is that I left my guru. My heart, my life was shattered. I married my husband. a great scandal erupted. Everyone that had been supporting my guru fantasy abandoned me when I entered or began to enter the reality of the true mother. My husband developed cancer, and together we received death threats day after day after day after day. And we were prostrate with anguish and grief. And I was half mad at the agony of the betrayal that I had been through. And half mad at the thought that the man I loved had been so wounded by this horrible experience that it had brought on a cancer which was threatening to kill him. One morning, after a particularly ferocious barrage of death threats, I turned to him and I said, "We have been completely abandoned. And I don't know how we're going to get through this. I don't know where the money is going to come from. I don't know who will have the courage to support us. And I feel absolutely at the end of the night. I don't know whether either of us can get through today." And he said, "Well, let us go to the mission." We were living in San Francisco. "And let us go to Mary. Let us just take this suffering and this shattering and this loneliness and this terror to the only one who will really understand it, because as Mary, she has lived it all and understands everything and has suffered everything." So we went to the mission and found a statue of Mary, and we just sobbed in front of her. Sobbed for hours in front of her. And if you've gone to those churches where she is really loved and venerated, or to the churches like the Church of the Apparition in Paris, where cripples come and dying people come, and people whose children have been shot come, you have seen people go to her at the end of the night and just pour at her feet their deepest, deepest longing and their deepest, deepest suffering. And then, as we left the mission, I saw a card. I love kitsch. I love Hindu kitsch most, but second only to Hindu kitsch is Mexican kitsch. And this was Mexican kitsch at its most sublime. And it was a small card of Mary opening her chest to reveal the Immaculate Heart blazing in golden light. And I bought the card, and I held it to my heart as we walked home. And then I put it on my desk. And on my desk I always have a portrait of Ramakrishna, the great devotee of the mother, the one who pioneered our modern understanding of the motherhood of God, the one who became the divine child in and under the mother and gave us this deathless example of what it is to live as the child of the mother on earth. This photograph is of Ramakrishna dancing in ecstasy. And I have over the years gazed at it hundreds of hours to give me passion and courage and joy because I love him so much. And I propped the card by the photograph and I left the room to make some tea. And I came back and the whole desk was covered with what I thought was water. And I got a cloth and I tried to clear it out, but it wasn't water. It was rose water. It was rose perfume, immensely strong and unbelievably beautiful. When Rumi speaks of the rose garden, many people think that's poetry. It isn't poetry. At a certain mystical level, you will smell the rose of the eternal feminine. And that smell is a fragrance so inebriating and so beautiful because it is the smell of the fragrance of the love of the Divine Mother for all of her creation. And I picked up the card and realized that the rose perfume was pouring out of the heart of Mary in this Mexican kitschy card. And then I picked up the card and I turned it. And the message was the message that she is giving all of us now, I believe. Whether you worship her as Kali or Durga or Lakshmi, whatever name you give her, the message is, whatever happens, I am with you and I love you and I will protect you. Turn to me. So now I would invite you to bow your heads to your heart, and we're going to do the Hail Mary together. But before we do it, I would like to just give you an interpretation of the Hail Mary that I hope will make it available to everyone on the earth, beyond any kind of Christian confinement, of the glory of this holiest of prayers to the Mother. And my interpretation of it isn't something that I invented in the bath, although a lot of my best ideas, as I'm sure yours, do come in the bath. It is an interpretation that grew in the core of me as I began to experience the vastness of the Mother's grace and the immensity of the Mother's love. And this interpretation goes like this. Hail Mary, the transcendent and the embodied Mother, full of grace, armed with all the graces that can transfigure and transform and redeem. The Lord is with you. And this for me means that the real mother never comes without the real father also. The real feminine and the real sacred masculine always come together because, as we will experience later, the fundamental nature of the universe is that it is a sacred marriage of interconnected opposites. So in that first line, the mystery of the sacred feminine and the marriage with the sacred masculine, and the mystery of the sacred feminine being the power that pours out an extravagance of grace to the world, is revealed. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed art thou amongst women. Blessed is this amazing woman, human woman, who lived out a life so holy and wild and just and passionate and strong that she became one with the Divine Mother, and is the face that the Divine Mother is turning to the whole of her afflicted and tormented creation at the moment when we need her most. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. The fruit of thy womb, Jesus. And what this means in the deepest and holiest mystical sense is this. And this is a huge key. The motherhood of God, the experience of the motherhood of God, the experience of reality as the great interconnected creation of the motherhood of God, the experience of the vast passion of compassion of the motherhood of God, is the crucible, the womb in which the Christ consciousness, the divine love consciousness, is formed, incubated, nurtured, sustained, and born. So what is being referred to in the prayer is not only the historical miracle of the birth of the being who carried that new consciousness, but the eternal miracle that is now the evolutionary secret of our time, that it is through turning to the motherhood of God, experiencing that motherhood at the greatest possible intensity, that the new transcendent and embodied love consciousness will be born on earth. And then, Holy Mary, Mother of God. The patriarchal theologians would want you to believe that that phrase means Holy Mary, human woman, given the privilege of being the mother of the Christ. But actually it means something to me very, very, very much more profound. What has been revealed to me in me is that what that line really means is that the Mother, the Divine Mother, is the endlessly fecund void out of which the Godhead is born. The transcendent mystery beyond all form, out of which all of the revelations, all of the different manifestations of God, and the Godhead itself is born. Or if you wanted to use Meister Eckhart's sublime formulation, you could say that the Mother is the Godhead, the formless Godhead, out of which God is born. The crystallization that we can relate to. So in that phrase is the mystery of Mary incarnating this infinite power that gives birth to the God or Godhead that permeates the whole creation. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us, sinners. I don't know about you, but I have absolutely no problem about thinking of myself as a sinner, especially since I know that the word sinner in Greek is hamartia, someone who misses the mark, not someone who is irredeemably condemned to be stained by corruption and the whole rest of it. And just as you have an appalling shadow, which you wrestle with, half-consciously, shabbily, and with conspicuous, continuous failures, so do I. So let us get real about this word in whatever way you want to experience it, and realize that it is not a self-damning word, but a word that shows us our common broken humanity and how much we all need the grace of her who loves us so much, to be able to bear ourselves and to work with ourselves and to heal ourselves and to stop the inner serial killer of our ego from getting out and destroying our lives and the lives of others. Pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. And at the hour of our death. And for me, there are 3 deaths that are interlinked in that. There is the obvious death when we go from this dimension into the next dimension that awaits us. And if you've ever been near deathbeds, and I've been near many, that is a terrible, fragilizing, amazing moment. And for us to invoke her presence, to be with us, when we're dying to be born again in another realm, is a very holy thing. It also means, I think, our death of the ego, the death that is prepared by the dark night, which births the divine consciousness in the human. And this mystery of death and rebirth, crucifixion and resurrection is key to the authentic mystical path of love. And anyone who has ever experienced this mystery of being flayed alive shattered, broken, crucified, utterly, utterly thrown to the wolves of the night, because you have to be thrown to them, to be devoured by them, to be free of yourself. Anyone who has ever experienced this mystery knows that it is the most terrible experience that you can go through. Much more terrible than trauma or bankruptcy or even the death of someone you love, because the authentic dark night is experienced not only in the mind and in the heart, but it's experienced in the depths of the soul. And so to ask her to be with you as you die into her, and to give you the strength and the faith and the passion of surrender that you're going to need to be able to survive the experience and be reborn in divine consciousness is essential. Because without her help, you will go mad. And the other death that resonates from that word is for me the great death that is now happening on the planet. If you don't know by now that the world and the whole human race and the whole creation are in absolute and extraordinary and urgent danger, and that the crisis is worsening day by day by day as we continue to deny our responsibility to the creation, you are really blind, deaf, and dumb. And there has never been a moment in our history when we need her more. There are two quotations that I would like to leave you with before we practice the prayer gently, that go to the heart of this third death. And they will resonate throughout everything that I will say after the prayer. And one is from Sri Aurobindo, who is the greatest of all humanity's evolutionary mystics, the being who discovered in the 20th century that the mother was preparing for humanity the birth of the divine human, a new kind of human being, as different from us as we are now, as birds are from the fish they evolved from. And this quotation goes like this: if there is to be a future, if there is to be a future, it will wear the crown of feminine design. If there is to be a future, it will wear the crown of feminine design, because it is only the sacred feminine, in its wisdom of interconnection, in its passion for compassion, in its hunger for justice, in its love of every aspect of the creation, in its enormous force of persistence and stamina, that can possibly give us the power and the grace and the wisdom to come out of this long nightmare of our ego's fantasy of domination and exploitation. Survive the great storms that we have called upon ourselves, and create the structures that can weather those storms and seed the birth of a wholly new way of being and doing everything. And the second quotation is a tremendous warning, a terrible warning, a ferocious warning that comes straight from the heart of those who know the mother best, the indigenous peoples, those who live with the mother nakedly, directly, in nature, in the core of the creation. And it's a message that the Hopi sent out at the end of the 90s. It's just 4 lines, and it goes like this. If humanity does not now turn to the mother, she will shake us off the face of this earth like a dog shakes off its fleas. Have you ever seen a dog shake off its fleas? It is a totally, comprehensively, wildly violent act, because those fleas, the fleas of our hubris, the fleas of our demented, mad worship of technology, the fleas of our degradation of the sacred, those lethal, toxic, poisonous fleas that are devouring the body of the dog, the body of the mother, those fleas will be shaken off the face of this earth, just as a dog does it, wildly, violently, fiercely, and forever. And if you think that the mother's love will keep alive on this planet a race that chooses the demented destruction of all other species, the demented pollution of the seas, the demented cutting down of the Amazon forest, the lungs of the whole creation, the demented genocide of the animals, also her children. Quite simply, at this moment, I believe you are mad. She loves us infinitely. But when a dog goes rabid and threatens the life of everyone in the house, the dog has to be shot for the sake of those who live in the house and have only that as their chance of survival. So please, my friends, get real about where we are, what she requires of us, and what we now need to do, which is to turn completely to her and let her transform us and guide us and give us the humility and the passion and the urgency to give everything in the great adventure to create a new world out of this devastation. So, please, let us say the Hail Mary with all of that in our hearts. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. The universe has been described by the wisest and most powerful mystical systems as a sacred marriage. And I want you to just sit back for a moment and allow the full magnificence of what I will try and convey to you to break upon you in wave after wave of beauty and hope. Putting it very simply, what the greatest human mystics have discovered and intuited is that there is an unknowable mystery of total oneness, the one, behind everything. It has many names, this mystery: Brahman, Tao, the Lord, the Self. The names are wonderful, but don't in the end matter. What matters is that we should experience this inexplicable unity behind everything, the transcendent one. And what the greatest human mystics have understood too, through revelation and living experience, is that this transcendent one, to manifest the creation out of itself, split itself into what look like opposites, but are actually secretly interconnected in a tremendous dance of spirit and matter, light and dark, agony and ecstasy, masculine and feminine, Shiva Shakti, Yin Yang, Mother Father. And the greatest of these human mystics have understood at the deepest level that the whole point of being here is to discover the truth of what Kabir, the great 16th century universal mystic, a mystic as great as Rumi or Sri Aurobindo or Ramakrishna, meant when he cried out in one of his greatest poems, "My Father is the absolute Godhead, and my mother is the embodied Godhead. And I am their divine human child, dancing in and as them both in the burning ground of creation. And what these supreme mystics understand is that we are not here to leave this world for an absolute heaven, the transcendent light, to get out of being here, because here is only illusion or damnation or unbelievable constriction or a fallen world. What these supreme mystics understand is that we are here to arrive here in the fullness of our illumined intellects, in the sacred passion of our absolutely open, inspired sacred hearts, and in the increasingly divinized cells of our bodies opened up to the grace of the divine. To arrive here so as to be born here into our divine humanity, our human divinity, and so be able to co-create with the Mother Father ever increasing levels of divine manifestation here on earth. And it is this evolutionary vision of the trajectory of humanity and the goal of humanity that is now essential to the future of humanity. And it is this evolutionary vision that is the supreme gift of the motherhood of God, that is the creator of evolution, the mother of evolution, the love fire that is the force behind evolution, the entire evolutionary unfolding, because the mother is the becoming that rises and shines and radiates from being, and she is the mistress of this process. And she is every detail of this process. And she is at every part of this process. She is this process. You see, there are fundamentally two types of mysticism. And it is absolutely essential for the future of this planet that we make the distinctions between these two types very, very clear, because everything depends upon this distinction now. If we are truly going to incarnate the possibility that this chaos and this agony and this death are giving us, which is a possibility of birthing through her and through our devotion to her an embodied divine humanity that can co-create in the middle of the chaos and the madness and in the devastated world that will result from whatever we do now and whatever happens now, a new way of being and doing everything that can ensure the survival of the human race and the survival of this precious and gorgeous creation that we were always meant to be the humble guardians of. And these two types of mysticism are the following. The first kind of mysticism is what I call transcendent mysticism. And this is the mysticism that fundamentally began at its deepest in the axial age, the first axial age. And it is the mysticism that is celebrated with such amazing beauty in the Upanishads and in the metaphysics of Buddhism and in certain aspects of Taoism, and in that vision of the transcendent identity that was discovered by those great sages in the 6th and 7th century before Christ. The problem with this vision is that it was so blindingly beautiful and so blindingly holy that it led, unfortunately, to a devaluation of the creation, a devaluation of relationships, a devaluation of the body, a devaluation of the feminine aspect of God, the embodied aspect of God. And so what happened was the people pursued enlightenment as a way of getting out of this, instead of arriving in this with the full powers of the Divine Father, Mother, irrigating the mind, illumining the heart, and divinizing the body. So a subtle dualism underlaid this very holy and powerful vision of the transcendent, and ensured over time that the great sacred energies that come in through tremendous mystical experience would not enter the world to transform it, because the world was dismissed in all of its holy particulars as an illusion. The second type of mysticism has always been a hidden secret of the mystical systems, pursued by a very few, but has erupted into world consciousness during the last 150 years, because this is the time when we're going to need it the most. And this mysticism is an evolutionary mysticism, a mysticism that honors the transcendent Father, but honors equally and with equal intensity and reverence the embodied Mother that is secretly not two with the transcendent Father. And this mysticism is a mysticism of radiant embodiment. It's a mysticism that holds out to humanity the unbelievable beauty and majesty of a destiny that engenders here in time, in a body, in relationship, in institutions, in this world, a wholly new kind of human being. It is an evolutionary destiny which says to us, man is an unfinished adventure. And what awaits those who love the transcendent and embodied Godhead enough is not simply what the old systems have called enlightenment, which have amounted to a very radiant form of psychosis and dissociation, but something even more amazing, which is symbolized in the birth of the Christ, the incarnation, but was also experienced at the core of Shiva Shaktism, was also experienced at the core of Vajrayana Buddhism, was also experienced in certain Kabbalistic schools, and came to its new and gorgeous expression in the work of Sri Aurobindo, in the work of Jean Gebser, in some of the work of Ken Wilber, in the great holy work of my teacher, Father Bede Griffiths, who was living this embodied incarnation, this incarnation of the divine in the mind and the heart and the soul and the body at the end of his life, and was telling me the secrets of this birth and giving me the courage to go on and pursue it myself. And these tremendous beings, the mother also, the Shakti of Aurobindo, these tremendous beings are saying to all of us now three things. The first thing they are saying is we have to get real about how all of our versions of everything are now bankrupt. The religions are bankrupt as they have evolved. Our vision of enlightenment as this subtle dualistic separation from everything is bankrupt because it just privileges the transcendent and not the forms of the transcendent that are just as holy. And our whole bias towards emptiness and illusion as we've inherited it from many of the mystical systems is now extremely dangerous, not only to the survival of the planet, but to this great plan of the evolutionary heart of the divine to birth here on earth a wholly new kind of humanity that will be the consummation of all of the different travelings of the divine in and through matter. And this is, of course, at the core of the work of one of the greatest of these evolutionary mystic pioneers, Teilhard de Chardin, who said, one day, after we have discovered the tides and after we have tamed the tides and gravity, we shall harness the energies of love. Harness the energies of love. And then for the second time in the history of humanity, we will discover fire. And the fire that he's talking about is the fire of the Divine Mother's passion to birth a new humanity. And so to birth, through that birth, a new creation. Because a divine humanity, resplendent with divine love, divine wisdom, divine intelligence, will be able to work with the rhythms of the natural creation to take both humanity and the creation into an entirely new vibration of ecstatic communion. I just want to read a prayer that I wrote when I first began to intuit this miracle. O Divine Mother, in this extreme danger, when we and all sentient beings and nature herself, your glorious body, face unprecedented misery and destruction, inaugurate in fierceness and tenderness your splendor of your age of passionate enlightenment. Bring into us the fire of your sacred passion for reality. Rejoin the severed mandala of our being. Infuse our bodies, our hearts, our souls, our minds with the calm and focused truth of your highest illumination that brings each of those into harmony. Engender in the ground of all of our beings the sacred marriage, that union between masculine and feminine, from which in each of us the divine child is born, that child that is flesh of your flesh, heart of your heart, light of your light, that child that is free from all dogma, free from all shame, free from all false divisions between holy and unholy, sacred and profane, free to burn out in love, free to play in love, free to serve in love, as love, for love, in the burning ground of life. Teach us, O Divine Mother, directly, at every moment in this hour of apocalypse and birth, the appropriate action that heals and preserves and redeems and transforms. And what I want to do now is to read to you the 10 sacred suggestions of evolutionary mysticism, the mysticism of the motherhood of God, to us at this moment, as I understand them. And all understanding of the mother is inevitably flawed. And all words that try to describe her are inevitably limited. But this was the best I could do, and I offer it in that spirit. So please take a deep breath. A deep breath. Let's take a deep breath together. I really want you to listen. Not from your minds and not only from your hearts, but from your belly and your toes and your genitals. But most of all, I want you to listen from your heartbreak and your longing for her. Number one, I am the mother. I am both transcendent and immanent, source and all that streams from it. I am one with all things in creation and one in boundless light within and beyond it. Adore me. 2. Adore every being and everything, from the whale to the ladybird, as life of my life. I am appearing in everything, as everything. Number 3, honor yourself humbly as my divine child, and see, know, and celebrate all other beings as my divine children. Whatever you do to or for anyone, you do to or for me. 4, see through constant practice of adoration that the creation is the sacred body of my sacred light, and do everything at all times to honor its laws that are my laws and to protect it from destruction. I and you and nature are one love and one glory. Protecting nature is protecting yourselves. 5, dissolve forever all schisms and separations between sects and religions. Whatever you adore really is a face of me, and everyone is on his or her own unique path. Know that there are as many paths as there are people. 6, dissolve forever through repeated holy inner experience of my unity, all barriers between what has been called sacred and what has been called profane. Know that the whole of my life and the whole of life is my feast. Realize ordinary life as an unbroken flow of normal miracle. 7, end all hatred of the body, all guilt, all sexual shame, and discover and celebrate my sacred eros in all its ecstatic connections and revelations. Preserve its purity and power in my name with truth and fidelity and mutual honor. 8, unlearn now all the religious propaganda that tries to tell you that you need intermediaries in your relationship with me. I can be contacted by anyone, anywhere, at any time, and in any circumstance, simply by saying my name however you imagine it. No intermediaries, no gurus, no priests, no experts are needed. You and I are always and already one. 9, never make of my worship another dogma, another mind prison, another religion. Remember always there is no mother without the father, no goddess without God. I do not want a new religion in my name. I want the whole experience on the earth to become holy and integrated in love. I want the return of harmony and sacred peace and balance, the union of the sacred marriage at the greatest depth and in everyone, of masculine and feminine, earth and heaven, body and soul, heart and intellect, prayer and action. Men are as much my children as women, and any separatist, prejudiced, or one-sided attempt to worship me worships only a distorted image of me. Dare to know me in my full majesty and all-encompassing brilliance and all-encompassing humility, and know that there is never any end to the journey into me, and that the conditions for this journey are ever-deepening faith, radical surrender, and radical humility. And number 10 concentrates all of these 9 and really is intended as a bitch slap to those narcissistic, self-absorbed visions of the mother which are everywhere in the New Age. Visions that basically say you can be a devotee of the mother without having to do anything. Just love her and the vibrations will miraculously heal the seas and the forests. All of this has nothing to do with the mother, because the mother is love in action. The mother is a passion for justice and for compassion, and that love acts on every level, at every moment. It is that action of love that is creating the whole cosmos, and that action lives in us as our conscience and our hunger for righteousness and for justice, and to see the poor housed, and to see the seas clean, and to see the forests renewed, and to see this terrible system of demented greed deconstructed so that the human race can breathe again. So this is really a message that is aimed at the narcissistic, exploitative mystic in all of us that wants all the mystical experiences and ecstasies without wanting to do anything of the sometimes terrifying and bitter and grueling work of putting the mother's love into real action, in real urgency, in the real world at this really terrible and dangerous time. So let's get real about this and stop sentimentalizing her or making her into some kind of endlessly indulgent mummy that will just let us go on destroying and ravaging and tormenting each other and the creation and not hold us accountable. Because that is a fantasy. If you love the mother, give your life. Your whole life, and your resources, and your money, and your energy, and your intellect, and your passion, and your guts to her work of saving this planet from us, and us from ourselves. Anything less than that is your ego's projection onto her and has nothing to do with her at all. It is your way of hiding. And it's your way of taking the gifts, like the trained, obsessed, self-absorbed narcissists we have become, without pouring your life out in radical service of her great plan for the birth. And you will not get away with it, just as I have repeatedly not gotten away with it. And this is the 10th suggestion. If you trust and love me, put your trust and love into action in every aspect of your life. Emotional, sexual, spiritual, social, political, with my passion, my clarity, my unsentimental practicality. Know that my revelation is a revolution that demands calmly a transformation of all the terms and conditions of life on earth. Establish justice for all in my world, in my name, and in my spirit of all-embracing and inexhaustible compassion. Let no one be poor or discriminated against. May all sentient beings everywhere be protected and safe from harm by law and by love. Turn to me now, and I will fill you with all the grace, strength, courage, and passion you need to transform the world at every level into a living mirror of my truth, my love, and my justice. If you truly love me, change everything for me. So you see, I don't really think the mother inspired The Secret. I think some other force, which we don't have to name, reveled when that dreadful, obscene idiocy came out and corrupted half a civilization.
Thank you for finally saying it. I'm so sick of this. It drives me.
When I first saw The Secret, I saw it, I think, just outside Asheville, and I said, this race is finished. If they truly believe that God exists to fill out the ego's bucket list of fantasies, then they know nothing about God, and they are not aware that their fantasy of greed is what is annihilating this planet. And I booked a place on one of those Virgin flights to the moon. But then I was sent the bill. It was something like $22 million. So I sent it to Rami, who said he'd pay it because of the massive contributions that you are all making to Wisdom House. So I want you to take one more breath so that we can be together in the last movement of this symphony to the Mother that I'm trying to play for you. Because I'm not going to rush this. And I'm not going to give you lemonade. There are many lemonade sellers out there. If you want lemonade, you can buy it in any New Age bookshop. I prefer to call it marzipan mysticism. And if there's anything that my mother likes less than marzipan mysticism, I don't know what it is. Because she's a mother that wants to transform us, to give us divine humanity. And all that marzipan mysticism offers us are Mercedes and McMansions and self-esteem, whatever the hell they mean by that. If you want to connect with the real, radical, revolutionary, all-transforming, all-nourishing, and all-compassionate force of the Mother, there are 5 sacred passions that you and I need to unite at the deepest and calmest and most focused intensity at the core of our lives. And these 5 sacred passions can be stated very, very simply. The first sacred passion is a sacred passion for the transcendent mother, the eternal force of the divine light that streams from the diamond of the Father and creates 25 supernovas before breakfast and lives in and as every single detail of the creation and all the quarks and neutrinos that are dancing in and as everything. And you need to evolve in yourself an absolutely focused and wild and total love of your whole being for that transcendent beloved that she is, so that she can pour down into you all the wisdom and strength and courage and chutzpah and wild ferocity and fearless clarity that you are going to need to be born as the divine human you are meant to be. The second great sacred passion that all of us need at this moment to be infused by at the most focused depth is a passion, a deep, holy, pure passion for the creation as the revelation of the splendor and majesty and tenderness and magnificence and power of the divine motherhood of God, the creation as her body, as her tremendous sacred body. Because it's only by evolving and working on adoring the creation that you can ever arouse in yourself the kind of passion for the creation that will lead you and I to join together at this late moment and really stop the destruction, the unbelievable suicidal, matricidal murder of the feminine in creation. 95% of the seas are polluted. The Amazon forest will be burnt down by 250. 120 species are vanishing every day. There are 2 billion people living on less than $1 a day. There is in place a completely crazy financial system that could collapse at any moment and plunge the whole world into the most obscene turmoil. And we are damaging the whole environment in such a way that soon, if we don't do everything on every level, it will be in free fall and nobody knows what will happen then. So this passion for the creation can't just be a contemplative, sweet, peaceful looking out of our windows to see the divine light flittering between the trees. It has got to be something that really gets us in the gut. You have got to love the lions and the tigers and the snow leopards and the poor and those who suffer and the women who have genital mutilation and the gay men who are tortured because of the holiness of the heart's affections. You've got to love them with a passion. Otherwise, you'll never get off your ass to do anything about it. You'll be waiting for the Archangel Gabriel or the Avatar or someone from the alien galaxies to do it. And you'll still be waiting when the last tree burns down and there's no more oxygen. And just before you die, you'll realize that all your fantasies of being saved were projections, because you and I were meant to be the ones who, in and under her, roused ourselves and loved enough to get together, to do everything, to change everything for her. I think I'm making myself clear, don't you? I've got to save my voice. But let's get down to it. The third great sacred passion is the passion for every sentient being There's a passion for the seas and the trees and the creation. And then there's this passion that she will awaken in you if you let her, and I beg you to let her, for every single sentient creature. When I think of this passion, I think immediately of my cats. Who knew that the great beloveds of my life would come in feline form? I had tried many other varieties of beloved, but then I rescued a tabby called Purball from a shelter. She hid under the bed for 3 days. I used to talk to her lying under the bed and say, look, I know you've been through hell, I've been through hell. We can get on, we understand each other. The world is full of crazy people. One of them hurt you, and about 42,000 of them have tried to hurt me. So let's get this over and done with. I'm not taking this anymore. And I was sitting reading the Sunday paper, and she appeared. And I can never describe this without crying, I'm sorry, but she looked at me. And in her eyes, I saw that she was going to have to make the most important choice. Whether she would trust her experience as she'd been abused, or whether she'd trust this crazy person who had lied under the bed, and whether she'd trust this bond that was growing between us. And I saw her just look at me and leap into my arms. And she stayed there for the 2 years that she stayed on earth to fill my life with such beauty. When I came back from teaching, trying to raise the dead in America is something that I hope I will be rewarded for when finally I get to the other side. I would return exhausted, despairing, and thinking, my God, will these people ever get it? You know, you understand. Because, of course, you're not those people. And she would come and lie on my heart center, which was when I understood that animals have the most extraordinary level of psychic knowledge and healing power, which none of our sciences have ever begun to explore. And this has opened up a tremendous relationship with the natural world, and especially the white lions, the holy white lions of Africa. I take people twice a year to visit these creatures who are the holy avatars of the Divine Mother's love and light and passion in the animal world, worshipped by the African shamanic tradition as the divine on earth. They are so beautiful and so powerful and so magical. And the work that I do as sacred activism is largely devoted, in my own personal activism, to animal rights. So this passion for all sentient beings, all human beings, and especially now as we create a worldwide Auschwitz for animals that are being tortured in laboratories, destroyed in their habitats, shot in canned hunting cages. If you've got to spare $150,000, I think that's the latest price, you can drive to the airport after this talk. You'll be met in a black limousine in Johannesburg, and you'll be taken to a canned hunting lodge, and you'll be given a rifle, which even you couldn't shoot, weirdly, and you'll be able to go up to a cage in which the holiest and most beautiful of the lions, the white lion, a creature with blue eyes and white, resplendent magnificence, and you'll be able to shoot it at point-blank range, so you can take it back to the McMansion that you've manifested through the secret and hang it up. What can you say about a world that allows this? And the millions of other things that are done against all sentient creatures. We must awaken the passion that will drive us to protect. And I don't mean just sitting in front of a picture of a moon bear that's been tortured for its bile in China, or a white lion or a vanishing tiger. I mean doing something. The fourth great sacred passion is the passion for Tantra. Because it's been my own living experience and the experience of so many people who have turned to this evolutionary truth of the mother, that when you truly consecrate your sexuality in a rapture of love and respect and honoring of another human being, and it doesn't matter a damn whatever the patriarchal religions say, whether you are gay or straight, because when I made love in this way to my husband and he made love to me, the divine light of the mother came into our room and flooded our room, just as it will come if two lesbians are loving in this way or two straight people are loving in this way. All of these categories mean nothing to her, because the only category that means anything to her, and the only persons who will ever get this revelation of what true love is and can open you to, are those who truly adore each other in mind, heart, soul, and body, and who discover that sexual passion can be Holy Communion. And what is extraordinary about this sacred passion of Tantra is that if you practice it with nobility and honor and respect and deep, deep discernment, it will flood you with a wild and beautiful and unstoppable energy, because what Tantra does is open up all the chakras and unify them in one golden force of unified love energy that then radiates from the being who possesses it or is possessed by it. And it's this fuel of sacred, compassionate love energy that you and I are going to need to be able to be creative and vital and buoyant and joyous and radiant and filled with humor and joy and chutzpah as the world goes through the destined dark night and births the new. And now we come to the last passion. And I want to say to you once more, as a prayer and as a challenge and as a warning, any vision of the mother that does not make you her servant of justice and love in action is a form of your own narcissism and has nothing to do with this revolutionary fire of evolution. The mother isn't just there to feed us ecstatic mystical experiences and to make us feel fabulous about ourselves. The mother is trying to change us into divine human beings who love this planet and all humanity so much that we are prepared to really risk everything. Our egos, our resources, our reputations, everything, in an overwhelming mutual action of what I've called sacred activism, the fusion of the deepest mystical passion and truth and peace and stamina and courage with focused, urgent, radical action on every level. So don't tell me you love the mother if you just spend the morning watching your shares making love over Liechtenstein and offer her a few prayers before going to sleep, while the whole world is starving and animals are being genocided, because that's not the mother that you are worshipping. That is your fantasy, your narcissistic, childlike fantasy in which you can get away with being as selfish as you want, as self-absorbed as you could possibly be, but are buying a little salvation, so-called for yourself, by the odd prayer and perfect asana position. Wake up, get real, stop pretending, because when you arrive at the other side and expect to meet Mary, you're going to meet Mary as Kali, and the sight ain't pretty, baby. Please listen to this. And I say it as somebody who's done this. Reformed alcoholics are always most angry about alcoholism, aren't they? Or most passionate about reforming it. And I know this kind of narcissism because it has trapped me. And I've had to go through many, many ordeals to begin to realize just how dangerous it is. So I'm warning you, please don't indulge it. Do the work. Because the fifth sacred passion is the passion for service, for activism born out of the first four passions. And it is the lens through which you focus the great holy power that is aroused by the first four passions. And what the mother now needs, requires, longs for, hungers for, demands, is that millions of us, and I mean millions of us, turn up, turn to her, and inspired by her, strengthened by her, ennobled by her, humbled by her, made real at last by her, in this final extremity, enact her laws of justice and compassion with everything we are and everything we have. And if we do, and some teachers will say, oh, it's bound to happen, this great birth. Don't believe them. It's being offered us. It's here. I'm experiencing it. Thousands of other people are experiencing it. But if we refuse the terms of it, even she, who has given us free will not be able to birth divine humanity out of a ragged group of borderlines, narcissists, and power-drunk idiots who refuse to do the sacred inner and outer work. And what that means is everything now depends on you and I getting real and getting going. Thank you.
We're going to set up a microphone. I think this is on, right?
First of all, I want to thank you because I really wanted to give you the clearest and deepest truth that I know about her, which are inevitably limited, and you've been so receptive, and you've sat there with such deep, deep love for her. And that really gives me hope, and I salute you. And I'm so happy to find... How old are you, sir? 38. Thank God your generation isn't taken in by this consumerist spirituality. You know where that's got us. Bless you for having said that about the secret. I don't want to burn the secret. I want to incinerate the secret. Oh, that's so negative. It's not negative. There is such a thing called discernment. And if you don't have discernment, you're an idiot. Okay? So no emails, please.
So we have a mic set up. If you want to talk to, so we can all hear.
Please talk to me. I'd really love to. Tell me what you felt. Tell me what registered with you. Don't sit there. I've been pouring myself out to you. I really want to hear from you how this comprehensive message affected you, what it's going to inspire you to do or to become, where it challenges you. It challenges me. Don't think I've got this down. I work and wrestle with this every day of my life. Yes, sir.
Well, I had a couple of questions, but as far as how you made me feel, I've been waiting for somebody you don't hear it anywhere. It's like self-absorbed, you visualize what you want. It's like God has become Santa Claus and he's just there to give you what you want, and it will just like spoil the fat, not for the children. You just want. And I mean, I've been saying for the past few years. I mean, I would consider it satanic in its message because it just feeds your materialism in its very worst way, but it portrays itself as spirituality. It's the
That's
most
right.
insidious, awful thing.
And it supports the corporate agenda.
Absolutely.
Because it stupefies even those who want to wake up to go shopping. It's the equivalent of what Bush did when when the 9/11, go shopping, everybody. Because if you go shopping, if you consume more, and in the name of God, you won't realize that the corporations with the governments and the global financial elite and the whole shebang of them, who are also us, of course, because we keep them going and we collude with their life of comfort, are actually destroying the planet. Thank you.
Thank you. Like I said, I've been dying to hear this. I go to different groups and I'm always speaking out against it, and I'm always the awful person in the room who's bringing everybody down. because
Join the club. I've been the awful person in the room, but they haven't been able to get me out of the room because of my Oxford accent. I will teach you. I will give you a false credential, a PhD, which in my case I didn't get, but and I will teach you how to speak in an Oxford accent and in sentences, and I'll give you the right quotation so they can't get... This message that I've been given has been so demonized and vilified, and it is such an outrage that nobody can get up without being criticized as negative and say that this spirituality that we've been sold is a narcissistic bag of garbage which is keeping us children when we need to grow up and do something real. Well, thank you for having the guts to wake up. And thank you for having the guts to speak up and go on speaking up. Because without being disrespectful, be disrespectful of Rabbi, but without speak your truth. You have to roar like a lion for the mother.
Well, I think, though, it's perpetuated intentionally by the media.
Of course.
It's off by spirituality, which encourages shopping and shallowness and lack of activism. And
Yes.
people are thirsting for spirituality, and they're given...
Authentic spirituality, when it mobilizes and activates people, will lead to a revolution of every single way we do everything. How could the cold madness of the corporations survive the eruption of the authentic love consciousness? How could politicians continue to lie to us in ways that we accept because we're stupefied by a life of comfort if our souls were really ravaged and broken open by the passion of the Mother and of the Christ? How could they? And how could we not howl with anguish at what we are doing to the animals and the seas and everything else if we allowed this passion to possess us? And how could we not rise up in millions of concerted, humble, passionate beings to really demand that this madness stops? And that is the last thing they want.
I mean, unfortunately, I deal with the madness every day.
Darling, you're not the only one. We're all in it together. You just have to walk down the street.
That was my profession, though. Based on that, I went into public service work as an attorney working at the public defender's office, and that broke me. It
Yeah.
completely broke me. The staggering amount of injustice that I encountered on a daily basis just tore my heart out. And I just couldn't continue to do it in the capacity that I've been doing. So I left and I do it in private practice. I'm not working 90 hours a week now. I take less cases and do it on a fair, I get public defender wages for what I charge for it.
You got out.
Yeah, I had to.
Yeah.
But at the time, though, I was an atheist. And I was just doing it because I thought it needed to be done. And I just saw so much, I don't know, injustice has always just troubled me. And I chose my whole career based on it.
Bless you.
And I don't really, and I guess, how do you continue to do activism in the face of just, I don't know, so much indifference with the world?
Well, I will be talking all tomorrow about activism, but the truth is you can only do it in the face of all the inertia and indifference by falling madly in love with life. Because only those who are truly, irretrievably in love with her, with life, will ever have the stamina to go on, going on, going on. And how you sustain that love is through sacred practice. Deep, profound, daily sacred practice. And how you enact that love is not to do it alone, but to find the others, the few but amazing others who feel as you do, and create what I've called a network of grace that can come together to sustain you as you sustain them. And I'll go into this tomorrow, and I hope that you leave tomorrow with real inspiration and real tools, because that's why I'm here. That's why I've done the work I've done. That's why I've written the books I've written, and that's why I wrote The Hope. Because every time I deliver this message, someone who has a beautiful and holy and broken heart like you asks that question, as I've asked it, and I feel that I have some really helpful answers, which I will expand on tomorrow.
Well, I think
I'm
I've...
going to
Wait.
interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something else.
We will
Anybody
talk.
else, please.
They won't come if you stand up. So.
We will
I
talk
know-
again.
Yeah.
We will talk together.
No, my pleasure.
No,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
it's
no,
wonderful. But thank you so much.
And now that I open the mic, don't embarrass me. Otherwise-
Well, don't you think that was wonderful to hear from that man? What a beautiful, beautiful spirit. And I'm so grateful you came up and spoke, because truly what you said gives me hope. And I want to hear from at least 3 more of you. I really want to hear from you. Please don't be passive. Don't you understand that passivity is why we're committing mass suicide? Let's speak.
I don't have it. I have never been so moved by anybody speak. You had my. It's an honor to hear you speak.
No, stay here. Stay here. I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
And thank you. And please come to everything I ever do and say exactly that. But what I want to ask you is, why were you moved? What was moved in you?
Because I feel that on a daily basis. I feel the call, the action, and
You feel the
and
love,
the beauty
don't you?
in the yes, Yes, so it's very powerful.
And what do you feel when you feel that?
You know, a lot of, not a lot, fear. I'm not
Yes.
scared. I'm
No,
not
no,
scared.
I know. I
but
feel
when
fear.
you scared me, like you're really like when talking about it, it's kind of scary. Thinking,
Well, the end of the potential
Well,
end
it's
of the
just-
world is scary.
yeah,
I'm sorry, it's not my fault. I didn't intend
but
Don't
I'm not
hate me.
scared. No, but I don't know where I'm going with that. I don't know.
Yes, it is very scary. I think
Yes, but
if
I'm
I
not
throw
scared,
out
but-
some words, tell me if I'm wrong. You feel fear, you feel tremendous anxiety,
Yeah.
you feel helpless, you feel, my God, my God, my God, my God. You feel heartbroken, and you feel that there are very few people who dare to feel like you.
I don't feel scared like that. I don't feel helpless or hopeless. No,
Oh.
it motivates me to
It
do.
does?
Yes. I'm not, but it's still in the front of my mind. The visual of it
Yes.
all. The visual. It scares me, but it motivates me.
That's wonderful.
That's why
So
I
instead of actually succumbing to
Yeah,
fear,
oh no, I'm not
you use
scared.
fear to
Yes.
really get your energies up, to
Yes.
do something out of your passion.
Yes. I'm trying. I guess.
I love you. Thank you.
I-
Bless you. Yes.
So I grew up not far from here, doing the whole God thing in a Baptist church, being petrified, going to bed every night, fearing I was going to hell. And I know I'm not the only one, probably even here, that feared that. And I have tried for years now to try to wrap my mind and my heart around this idea of the divine feminine, because everybody I know talks about her.
Right.
And I nearly did not come tonight. I've heard you speak before. And you so moved me then, I thought I have got to go. And like her, I got something so deep about what I feel now in relation to Mother. So there are all these things that are connecting that I wanted to say that and thank you.
And one day, we must hope that the Baptists and the fundamentalists understand that Jesus is also the mother. And that Jesus is so amazingly beautiful because he has a woman's heart in a man's body. He is the sacred androgyne that fuses at the greatest depth and with the sweetest and wildest truth, the wisdom of the Father and the passion of the Mother. And when they get that, nobody will talk about hell anymore. Because it's quite clear that hell is already right here. And that heaven is also right here. And that our responsibility as lovers of the Christ is to work with the energies of the Father, Mother to build the kingdom on earth.
Yeah. I am so happy. Because I'm getting it. So, yes.
Bless you.
Andrew Harvey, I'm Taylor Baumgarten.
Hello,
and
Taylor.
all your writing jumps off the page and speaks to me deeply. I'm a mother who knows the mother
Right.
and knows the mother in an intimate way, and she's carried me through some significant experiences, and I thank you for your passion and writing about it so I can say I know this. I know this, and I'm not crazy, and when I stand up to justice or injustice for justice, that even when you're beaten down or crucified yourself, that you're still doing it for the right reasons, and so I appreciate your support, and you're giving me hope and kind of driving home the passion that I have within, and I could have saved you a lot of money because I knew about that direct connection like early in my life, and you wouldn't have to travel. But then I told somebody, but then I wouldn't have learned
You can
from your
still give it to me,
experiences.
yes.
So yeah, but anyway, no, I really appreciate the work that you do, and
Thank you.
I'm Taylor, and I'm here to do that work. So
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. I'd love to hear from you, sir. I just want to say something about that word crazy. Rami and I had an incredibly powerful and wonderful conversation today, and he paid me tremendous tribute at the end of this conversation that was filmed. He said, "You're a holy rascal," which is certainly true, I hope. I mean, rascal, I don't know about holy. And then he said, "And you're one of the people who are crazy." And I stopped him, and I know he didn't mean this, but I am so tired and exhausted and bored by people who call the lovers crazy. Why don't you call the cold-hearted CEOs who strip mine Ecuador crazy? Why don't you call the corrupt politicians who sell the poor for a mess of Mercedes crazy? Why don't you call the people who pursue celebrity and power at the expense of every human value crazy? Why do you call the mystics who are afire with love for the Christ and for the Mother crazy just because they're burning with holy passion? When are we going to end this stupid, idiotic, crazy calling of the sane crazy, when the so-called sane are creating a totally suicidal and matricidal world? Stop it! Is Ramakrishna crazy because he's dancing, throwing flowers in all directions because he sees and knows that everything in the whole universe is unutterably holy? Or is the person who sits sipping his Pernod, organizing the strategy of his company to destroy Nigeria crazy? Which one is crazy? On your answer depends your life, and on your answer depends the future of the human race. We are not. Right. Let's stop this. Let's stop this. Let's imagine that Rumi was in this room. Let's imagine that in a real culture where people weren't so tamped down and policed and told what to think and saturated with media lunacy and made to feel afraid of the beautiful holy emotions. Let's imagine that there was a world like that, and that a man in the 13th century went absolutely out of his false mind into his real mind with overwhelming love, and was in this room dancing and clinging onto a pillar and speaking and erupting in the most holy and grand and amazing sacred mystical poetry that the world has ever been given. This culture would call that man crazy. He's not crazy. He's divine. And it is time that you and I really saw how desperately crazy those who degrade the holy power and beauty of divine inspiration are, because they are the cold-souled, cold-hearted ones. And we have them inside ourselves. We know what that voice is like. And their reign is killing everything. So, if they call you crazy, fall down before the mother and say, thank you. This is vodka, you know that. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? God, we need more so-called crazy people. Everybody is like sitting in front of the television, watching the world being destroyed, popping popcorn into their mouths. Antidepressants. That's psychotic. I must calm down now.
I would like to thank you for that introduction about crazy.
Thanks.
I've been given a story to share that I've tried to share for several years now, and I've been called crazy many, many times. I'd just like to share one event from that. On Friday night, April the 27th of 2001, I had a mockingbird show up outside my bedroom window and begin screaming, and I mean just screaming much louder than any bird should be able to scream. He did this for 3 nights in a row, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. Monday morning, I went to work and told some of my friends at work about this mockingbird from hell that I had, sitting outside my bedroom, I stutter, window. That afternoon when I got home from work, I stopped my car in the driveway and I watched a mockingbird fly down from behind my house. She got about a foot off of the ground, swept up into the air about this high, and just stopped in midair for a split second, had his wings spread out and his tail feathers spread out. It was the first time that I had ever noticed that mockingbirds have these beautiful white stripes on their wings, and his tail feathers were all snow white. And he hung there for just a second and vanished into thin air. And I sat there trying to understand what I had just seen. I won't, tell the whole story. It would take too long. But I have a book that I have put all of these experiences in. I don't know if you remember me, but I approached you at Miriam's Well up in Saugerties, New York.
Yes.
I think it was back in 2006. And, I gave you a copy of my book. I would hope it would blow you away, but apparently it didn't.
Sir, forgive me, but I want to say to you, what you had was an authentic shamanic experience. And I want to describe something that happened in honor of you at the end of the Copenhagen conference. I was with a group of spiritual teachers. I must say, I wanted to commit suicide after this group of spiritual teachers got up and just said the same old, same old, same old. My God, how don't they ever bore themselves to death, these people? And it was amazing. And nobody was addressing the fact, really, that here we were at 1 minute to midnight, and the governments of the world were doing nothing about the environment, right? And at the end of the whole conference, and this is related to the scream of your mockingbird, at the end of the whole conference, when all the Buddhists and Hindus and everybody had a wonderful self-congratulatory orgy, these Amazonian shamans, these wonderful, beautiful men, God, painted and wild and potent and absolutely the mother's embodied children, they got up and they looked around this group, and for about 5 minutes, they screamed. They made the sounds of a jungle on fire. They made the sounds of animals dying, of trees dying, of people dying. They screamed, but it wasn't a chaotic scream. It was a shamanic eruption of absolutely molten outrage, the holiest kind of outrage. And then they became completely still, these boys, and they looked out at everybody, and they said 3 things. They said, "Don't you know the storm is coming? When will you put up your tents? What are you doing?" And then they left the stage. And that was the only thing in that whole conference that came anywhere near the truth. And I salute you for that experience, because that's what I believe you were hearing. You were hearing the agony of the creation, trying to wake you up and the world up to the reality of what's happening to the creation. So thank you very much.
I went with Sufis to Turkey.
Yes.
I went to Konya.
Oh my
I
God.
became a dervish. I wanted to sing Rumi. It's what
Yes.
I sing.
Yes.
But the reason I'm standing here is because I have had a farm here. It's 150 years old. It's 75 acres. I run it myself. I'm 66 years old.
God.
I have no
What are you on,
idea
baby?
how to tell you. All right, this is the point.
And what is the point about you being 66 years old?
I'm
Are you selling us some
I'm getting a
vitamins?
little bit worn.
Oh,
So-
darling, that's when it gets good. I'm 60 and the wearing down allows the truth to break through despite yourself.
Yes, so here it comes. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, you said you must give everything.
Yes.
You must give everything.
Well, Rumi would be wonderful.
All right. Everything is at that place. It's everywhere in this world if you see it. But the mother is there every day. I sleep and I wake and I walk and I work and I live with her and with him. In everything, I am never alone. I'm the only human being in that place. But I would be so willing. I would be so willing to give it to a higher purpose. And I don't know what that is, and it's not ignorance, and I'm not stupid. I am waiting to find out.
I can suggest something
What's-
right now.
That's what I'm asking.
I think what is needed right now, and nobody has ever dared to do it, so if you dare to do it, I will build a statue for you in Monrovia, the capital of Liberia,
Thank
300
you so
feet
much.
high.
I've wanted that.
And what it is that I think what's needed intensely at this moment is a place that activists on the front lines can go
Yes,
to be healed
yes,
and to be given the meditational
Yes.
practices and the nutritional practices and the yoga that they need to continue to be the special forces of this evolution. And I think one of the most, I go to all these spiritual centers where people who have too much money and a few mystical experiences come for a little mystical injection and go back to their big houses and do nothing about anything. And they can afford it, but the activists who have got great souls and hearts have no money, have nothing, and they are exhausted, and they are broken down, and they are totally disheartened and despairing. And what I want to do as part of sacred activism is to have a place, or to be part of a place, in which real sacred activist teachers, real nutritionists, real meditation teachers, real teachers of health in every way can come together as humble nurses and say to these amazing people, we love you, and we're going to give you everything we know because you are the ones who dared when nobody else did to turn up and really do something. Great psychologists. And what we need is a place, but we also need some funding, because the point is that I want these activists to come for free.
of course,
Because I want personally myself to bow down at their feet
of course.
and thank them and say, thank God somebody was real when the rest of us were playing with ourselves.
Yes.
So, see me afterwards.
I will. My place sleeps 10. I grow everything. The water is fresh out of
Well,
the
let's
hills.
start
It's
with 10.
clean. Please.
No, let's talk about it. If you're serious,
I'm very serious.
let's do it.
I'm very
Let's
serious.
start
Thank
it
you.
small and let's do it. And nobody, do you know that I've been floating this idea for 20 years? Do you know that 8 people have offered me stuff, so maybe 9, and none of the spiritual centers will do this? They're so busy fleecing the lazy and offering them yet more ways of indulging themselves and pretending they're spiritual. You can't imagine what it's like. Yes, you can.
I have more than I know what to do with.
Well, honey,
Please.
I can help you, and so can them. Do you understand the idea? You understand the concept? It's so important. We're going to need oases in which people can be given the real mother knowledge so that we can go on going on and do it from an ever deeper wisdom and sacred center. I'm sorry if you came for a weekend of mystical entertainment. I will do my best to amuse you occasionally, but we're going to get really down to serious and wonderful stuff together because time is running out and you've done me the honor of coming here and I'm going to do you the honor of telling you my truth. Thank you.
Just want to remind you, breakfast starts at 7:30 tomorrow. Breakfast from 7:30.